So we're done painting, and now we're going to teach you guys how to clean this paint gun. This is a Titan 440. A lot of the paint guns are very similar in how they're cleaned. You need a bucket of water, but you also need a bucket that you can put all your waste paint water right here. The first thing you want to do is clean out your hose. So this is my hose right here, and I want to clean it out. But before we clean out the hose, we're going to prime this machine and get all the paint out of this machine. So how do you do that? There's a little primer button right here. When you push it down, it will prime this machine. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of these, the big one with the filter on the bottom, see it? I'm going to put it in the water. The other one's going to go in this bucket. But I don't want to waste that paint that is in this machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that paint that's in this machine, I'm going to put that paint into this bucket. So when I lower this down, it wants to run it all in there. Now you can see it started getting watery, so now I'm putting all the watery paint in there. When this button is down, it's basically just cleaning the machine. There's no pressure going through this hose or this line. So you can go ahead and unscrew this line right here. Go ahead and unscrew the tip of this, because the first thing you want to do is clean out the machine. It looks like it's getting pretty clean, so we're going to go ahead and swip that up now. So you move that up, and when you move that up, what it's doing now is putting pressure through this hose, and so that's when you're going to actually push it into there. So what I like to do is I actually like to leave it down and then hold this. So like right now, if I try to shoot it, you see how fast it shoots, and it'll spray up at your face and everything else. So you want to push this back down slowly, let that pressure out, okay? And then hold this down just like that and put it in your bucket, because you're going to want to put it in your paint bucket. Then you're going to go ahead and flop that up, because now we're pushing the pressure through this hose, and when you turn it on, it'll start spraying. So now we're spraying all that paint out. We're putting it back in the paint bucket, because it's still good paint. And when you see it's starting to get a little watery, then you can turn it off. All right, we're getting a little watery now. Put the paint lid back on that. You can reuse this paint just like that. And now hold it down again, turn it back on, and now you're putting the rest of it into this bucket. So the water is being pulled out of here, it's going through your hose and your machine, and it's coming out, and you're spraying it into this bucket. And so basically all of the paint that's in this line is starting to get moved into this bucket. And you can see it's shaking and it's pulling it all out. Now I like to, while this is happening, I like to kind of spray this off and kind of rub that off and use this kind of as a way to clean that. Because I've used this gun for 10 years now. And yeah, after 10 years, you're gonna have a little bit of paint buildup on there if you don't clean it very well, which I haven't cleaned it very well. So this is getting kind of wet, so I'm gonna move that over there before I get shocked to death. That was dumb. Just don't be stupid when you're out here, you know? All right. So we're spraying everything. The gun is, look, it's basically almost clear now. So when it's almost clear like that, go ahead and flip it down. Let the gun press some more of the paint out of here. That's basically clear as well. The next thing you're gonna do is just go ahead and turn it off. Now take your gun and your tip here, and you're gonna go ahead and clean this off. You see how that's all dirty? Just go ahead and shake it in there. Shake it in there like that. Okay, you got everything cleaned. And basically what you're doing is you're cleaning that filter and all that kind of stuff. I believe this comes apart. I don't ever take that apart, but it might come apart. You can clean that too. And then you're gonna also release the pressure here. Make sure there's no pressure in this gun, and you'll take this gun actually apart. But I like to do that at the very end. I'm gonna show you what I'm doing. So I've cleaned this gun here. I'm gonna take this paint and go ahead and dump it out in a spot that you're gonna cover up or something like that in the future. Let's put it right there because I know we're gonna cover this up. Okay. If you have a bunch of like thick paint, you're gonna have to let it dry out. Once it dries out, you could pour it into a bucket or something. If you're not using any of your thick paint, let it dry out, then you can throw it in the dump. So I'm putting more water in here, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna run that machine through this fresh water one last time. Make sure all that paint's out of the gun. Once all the paint's out of the gun, then you'll run, we've got some paint thinner over there that, you know, it helps to oil that gun back up so it won't rust on the inside. You want to run a little bit of paint thinner through there right at the very end. So we got our water here. We're gonna go ahead and put that bucket in there. It's pushed down, so we're gonna run it through this gun real quick. And I'm gonna come over here and get this paint thinner. I like the paint thinner that's actually clear. I think it's about 10 to 12 bucks for this. And you want to, every time you use your gun, right at the very end, run a little bit of paint thinner through your gun. So that's real clean, that's perfect. So now we're gonna go ahead and move this back up and run it through the hose, running the water through the hose. Okay. And while you're running your very last water through the hose, there's really no paint in it anymore. You can go ahead and take your end here and you could spray it out a little bit. Let that pressure build up a little bit and you can spray that out. And on the very front here, you're gonna have to scrape, get that paint off of that tip there. That's important. Turn that. The very last thing you'll do, you'll actually put this tip back on and you'll actually spray water through it one last time. So I'm gonna go ahead and it looks real clean. Everything looks great. Turn it back off. I'm going to go ahead and screw this tip back on here. And the very last thing you're gonna do is spray through this tip. Because if you don't, there may be a little bit of paint there. Next time you go to try to spray, see, that's cleaning it out. You can also clean, look at that. You can clean your hands up if you got a little paint on them. That water is just enough pressure that it'll get all the paint off of your fingers, your fingernails. And this is a perfect time to go ahead and get paint off of your hands when you're cleaning your gun that last time, your arms. That way you don't have to scrape it so much when you're at home. You know, your gun may spray hard, so hard that you can't do this, and that's fine. Don't do it if it hurts you. Mine is just enough to, like a little power washer, you know. Now you should be wearing gloves. You should wear a real good paint mask. And if you're inside, you know, you need to get a paint mask that'll keep you from getting high and stuff like that as well. I've just got a particle mask on out here. This is clean, that's clean. Turn it off. Release the pressure for the very last bit. And the very last thing you want to do is you want to actually take this, you want to unscrew this little part at the end here, because there is a filter right inside here, so you got to pop this little thing off. That'll come off like that. You unscrew this, and there's a little tiny filter in here that you can replace this filter. Let's see how much paint's on there from the years and years of buildup. And it's good because it keeps everything filtered and stuff, but you're gonna want to wash that every time, or you're gonna have to replace this filter way too often. The CR filter is almost to the point where it needs replaced. You can see that filter's getting so bad you're not really going to be able to clean it much anymore. And so, you know, one thing you can also do to help clean that filter is just like what we were doing earlier. You can put this back on without a filter, just like this, and you can go ahead and turn this back on, spray it, and you can use this. You can use that to spray this end out. And if you turn this direction like that, well, now I've done it. At least what you can do is you can actually turn that around and it'll spray even harder. You just don't want to spray your finger when it's spraying like that, because it sprays really hard. But that'll go ahead and get, you know, a lot more of that paint off there than you could if you were trying to do it just in a bucket. But you can see I haven't really cleaned this the way I should have in the past, and it's not really wanting to come off. But you'd be surprised at how long you can still use this even with paint on there like that. Basically, it's just a filter. But yeah, that's about as clean as I'm gonna get that. Probably use it another time, but it's about ready to be replaced. So there we go. We got this down now. Now I can go ahead and unscrew this back again. Put your filter back in there, just like this. Make sure there's no paint in there, in that bottom part. There we go. Put the filter back in there. Put that back on there like this. There we go. Screw it back together. You want to make sure you do this every time you use this gun. I've seen people, they just leave their paint gun overnight and they come back the next day and they keep painting. That's so stupid. Not a good idea. Don't do it. Just clean it every day when you're done. I actually loaned somebody my gun, and I came over there one night and they had put some plastic thing on top of the bucket, and the paint gun was sitting there all, you know, there was paint all over this. There's paint everywhere, drying, and I was so frustrated. I'd never let them use that gun again. So don't ever loan out your gun to someone that's never used one before. That's not going to do what you're wanting to do with your equipment. And the very last thing that you're going to do is go ahead and empty the very last bit of water from this line. So push that back down, turn it back on, let all the water come out. Now all the water is coming out of your machine. There's no more water. And the very last thing you're going to do is put a little bit of this primer in a little bucket, or I just use this machine to put a little bit right there. Just make sure to clean it out before, if there's a bunch of dirt or something in there, dump it out. But put your paint thinner in there like that. Fill it up about that much, and then go ahead and run that through your machine until it starts coming out this end right there. And once it starts coming out, just turn it off. So now you have paint thinner in your machine. It will not rust. It'll oil it a little bit in some way. It's not really paint oil, but it works kind of like a penetration primer, oil, whatever, for your gun. It works perfect. Go ahead and put all your paint lids on. And yeah, we're finished painting, and now we're just cleaning up. You want to make sure when you're finished painting, you want to go ahead and take this tape off pretty soon, because if this stuff stays out in the heat and in the sun, you're going to sit here and it's going to do this. It's going to break everywhere, and you're going to have to peel it off one little piece at a time. So go ahead and just take it off when you're finished with your project. See, this one's already heating up just from being on here for this day. But if this was on here for 2-3 days, it would be a lot harder to take all this off. So just go ahead and get it over there, take off your tape, And that way you're not taking it off piece by piece after you've let the sun bake it. It's a lot easier to take off like this. There you go. Now you can see there's no paint anywhere on that window. You don't have to go and clean afterwards. You go straight home to your kids. Save yourself some time. All right, you guys take care. That's how you would clean your paint gun every time you're finished using it. Take care.